Good evening. So I'm here with my Reximex Mito 0.22 cal, and I'm just going to show how to get to the trigger spring and the sear release spring. So basically, first of all, we're going to have to take the grip off. If you didn't see my video, you need a 3mm and a 2mm and a flat blade screwdriver. So we just need to pop that in there. Just pops this plate out like this. Pop it over there. Turn this over, and then use the 3mm to go in and take the actual rear bolt out. Notice it's at an angle, yeah, naturally at an angle, so yeah, and when you put it back in, be careful you don't cross thread that bolt, okay? So unscrew that all the way. So that's the 3mm, and then you've got a small 2mm in the front here, okay? So that's the only thing that holds the actual grip on. You take this one all the way out, like so. Just tip it out. So that's your 2mm there, and then this grip will slide backwards and off. So you can leave your screw in there. So that's your grip off, and then what we're going to do, we're going to remove this Allen screw here which holds this plate on. Behind the plate is the trigger mechanism. Okay, it runs from there to there. So we'll pause this and we'll come back to that. Back shortly. Good afternoon. So I'm back with my Mito, and I'm going to show you how to remove this plate here. This plate actually has all the trigger mechanism behind it. Now I would recommend, obviously, you make sure this is completely empty, dry fire it before you start taking it apart. But you've got your safety here, and I recommend you actually put your safety on like it is there, pushed in. The reason being is that when you take this plate off, the plate goes round that safety, and you don't want it sticking out too much, okay? So what you want is a 2.5mm Allen wrench. Just pop it in there, okay, and just undo it. It's held on by the actual grip when it's done up. So if you just take that screw out, there's only one screw, and you've got a fair few locating pins behind this plate. So what we'll do, we'll take this out. That's it, quite long. There we go, that's out, that's the actual screw that's out. Okay, so we'll put that aside, and then what you want to do is just gently lever this off. And I've got a little watchmaker's screwdriver here, so I'm just going to get underneath it. I'm going to go on the edge of the trigger because this whole plate lifts off. Yeah, see, it's just something, you can see that, but you see the safety. If I just zoom in a little bit, you see the safety's going down, and just gently lift off this plate. Yeah, and it's basically got locating pins, and also you've got a few trigger pins in there. Just lift it off, rock it, and gently lift it off. Okay, so that's that off. So if I actually just move the camera a little bit, there we go, and move the pistol that way, and you'll be able to see the trigger mechanism. So we'll just zoom in a little bit. Oh, get it to focus. That's it. There we go. So what you've got your trigger pin here, okay, and then you've got your trigger spring here. Yeah, and that dictates the weight of the first stage. You've got to adjust the screw here, and that adjusts the actual. You can actually adjust the trigger backwards and forwards with this screw. If you have it too far in, you'll have it effectively just a single stage where it'll just break. But obviously, ideally, you want a two-stage where it'll go to that point, and then it'll sit on there, and then it'll fire the actual pistol off. This is the sear that operates the actual hammer release here, so it engages there. So it's disengaged at the moment. So obviously, when you cock it, this spring here pushes that up, which engages the hammer, locks the hammer back. And then that sear sits above that edge there, and then obviously when you pull the trigger sits against here, pushes that up, which releases that sear, which fires it. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to take out this pin here, which takes the trigger and the trigger spring out. Okay, and we're going to change the trigger spring. So I've got this replacement trigger spring here. Okay, so we're going to change that. It should be a lighter than the original, and then we've got the sear spring here. You can just focus that, maybe not. That's the problem with this camera. Yeah, because I've got it zoomed in probably too much. Let's just zoom her out a bit. There we go. Just try and focus it. There we go. You can just about see it. But that's a short spring. That's about 8mm. The other one's 16. So what we're going to do, we're going to replace this spring in here. Okay, the actual sear release spring, which is this spring in here. Okay, so I think the best way to know this, there's a little grub screw here, and you've got like a holder that goes inside the spring, and it stops the spring popping out. So I don't know if we can just see this. That's it. This might be a bit better. Yeah, you've got a spring here, and you've got an Allen key screw goes in here and sits inside that spring that holds it in place. So I think the best way to change that would be to unscrew this till it's flush, and then use a pair of tweezers. Yeah, get the tweezers on the spring, squeeze it together, lift it out, and put the other one in. So what we're going to do, we're going to do that. So if I remember rightly, which grub screw goes in there. So yeah, that's a 2mm grub screw. So we're going to unscrew it, and just make a note of where the position was, because you can always put it back in afterwards. Okay, so we're going to do that. We're going to get a pair of tweezers and just get in there, and hopefully should be able to just squeeze it, get it, and then lift it out like so. Okay, so you've got the spring out, and then what we'll do, we'll take the new spring, which looks a lot lighter gauge by the way, pop that on your tweezers like so, squeeze it together and pop it back in its place like see where it gets a bit fiddly. I think if I'm going to get this in the right position, that should go in there. Not quite in there, nope. It's definitely a thinner, lighter spring, so it should work once we get it in there. It's just against compressing it. Right, so. Okay, pop a blade in there just to stop it from popping out. Okay, so this is in. So, and then we want to do up this holder here and get it to engage inside the spring. I do believe that's now engaged. Okay, so that spring is in there. Okay, obviously we can't operate it because the safety is on. And then what we're going to do is use a pair of tweezers to pull out the trigger spring. Okay, so you might better use a pair of pliers, small pair of pliers to lift that out. So you need to pull it out. Obviously you'll be under a bit of tension with that with the trigger spring. So that's the old spring that's been removed. Just going to get this pin out here. This holds the trigger in place. That way that might be easier. That's it. Just lift it out a bit. Gently lift it out. That's it. Remove the actual trigger. Take the spring out. That's the original trigger spring. Pop the new one in, which goes in this hole there that detent, and then it's a case of putting that back in, lining it up with the actual lining it back up with the hole, and so get it in there. Forget the actual. Like I said, this can be a bit fiddly, but I think it's definitely worthwhile doing. That's it, that's the actual spring in there. That's it. Oh. And the spring has popped out. Where's my tweezers? Put the tweezers in there. Very handy. Just take that spring, pop it in there. So there you go. So that's your spring. That's your trigger spring there. Okay. So what we want to do now is put the cover back on. Okay. So we'll just take this out of touch. So what you've got now, you've got a lighter trigger spring in there. Okay. And you've got a lighter spring in here for your sear release. Okay, just checking that it is actually engaged. Yeah, that is engaged. Okay, just make sure that's vertical. Okay, so it is engaged. Right, then we're going to just pop the cover back on, and just a case of just lining it all up. Just safety might need a bit of adjustment. Actually, that's it, like so. Just pops on like so. Put your screw back in. Do that up, and that is let's get the right one. Might be a good idea. Yeah, that's the right one. How about that small one? Right, okay, so that is the actual assembly back together. So if you flick the safety off, the actual safety, the first stage is ever so light now, much lighter, and we cock it, okay, obviously this is empty, so that's there. And if we just zoom this out just a touch, whoop, wrong way, sorry, there we go. So this is empty, so the first stage is much lighter, and then we squeeze it, and yeah, it goes. So what we'll do, we'll do a spring balance test on that to see what she's doing. So yeah, that was quite fiddly. Obviously you've got your original springs, so obviously hold on to them if you need to put them back in. But yeah, I think really that should reduce the actual second stage pull. So what we'll do, we'll check that as soon as we get the spring balance on it. Okay, so I hope you like that little video. Take care and thanks for watching. Good evening. So I'm just going to explain what I've done before I put the actual grip back on. So I'm going to zoom in a bit. So what I've done here, I've obviously put a lighter spring in the actual first stage, and also a lighter spring in the sear release, the release sear. So this has reduced the actual brake. The actual first stage trigger movement is very light now. It's actually below 8 ounces. My gauge won't measure that. But the actual second stage release is now down to 2.5 pounds, which equates to 1,134 grams. Now that's down from the out the box weight of 5.15 pounds, which is 2,336. So I've half the actual brake weight, which is really good. One other thing I did do was these little screws here, this screw here that holds the actual sear spring in place, I've put it most of the way in now, and I would recommend that you actually Loctite this, and I use some low strength Loctite, some 221, just to put it a little bit on the thread and do it up, leave it to set. And also your sear spring, yeah, also you want to put a bit of Loctite on that. What you want to do is undo it until it won't cock, then turn it until a quarter turn, I turned it until it cocks, and then do a little knock test on it, on something hard, you know, not a concrete carpet floor. Give it a good bash to make sure it doesn't go off, so it hasn't got a hair trigger. Okay, that's fine. And then it's just a case of putting the actual grip back on, which I'm going to do next. So I hope you like that little video. I'm sorry it was a bit of a drag putting the springs in, but yeah, when you're doing things on camera and you're doing little fiddly things, it's not easy. Okay, so yeah, the actual first stage is very light now, look, and the actual second stage, yeah, if I cock it, yeah, the second stage is quite manageable now. It's about, like I said, 2.5, which is really nice. Okay, so yeah, we'll put it all back together and we'll do a bit of a target test and see how she shoots now. She'll shoot a lot better with a lighter trigger pull. Hope you like that little video. Take care. Thanks for watching. Good evening. So just a bit of an update on the data from the Reximex pistol. I've just changed the springs on. I have done a pull off now. Now fitted the grip back on, and from this bottom of the trigger here, the pull off, the second stage pull off is now £2, which is more than half of what it was out the box, which was 5.15. The springs eBay, the eBay numbers are on there. They're both the same because you have a drop down menu. Okay, so I'll just put this card up here so you can actually look at the data, and then you'll see the data at the bottom. Just scroll it up, and you better pause this and actually read the information. Okay, so that's just a bit of additional video. Yeah, it's always a bit tricky doing things on camera, putting this, it's a fiddly job. So, but hopefully it'll all be right. So I hope that's fine. Take care and thanks for watching.